Hello, everyone. My name is Karim Faris at GV, and I'm here today with Tarun Thakur, founder and CEO at Veza, and Phil Venables, security visionary who's on the board of Veza. Tarun, we met in 2021, a year into COVID. The idea was that identity security was not solved. I thought it was, but as we spoke to more and more CISOs, we realized it was anything but. The proliferations of identities and who has access to what was a question on the top of minds of everybody. Right. So why don't you take us through the pain that you've seen, remind us of the reason for being at Veza, and how things have evolved.
Absolutely, Karim. Thank you for having me and us. Look, when we met back in 2021, the whole thesis or the insights that we had gleaned from talking to lots and lots of organizations was, look, while we have solved lots of challenges in cyber, we haven't really cracked the nut of principle of least privilege, which was really the foundation to zero trust.
Phil, you've seen this problem in spades, and if I recall, back in your Goldman Sachs days, you even built product in-house to help solve it. Could you take us through your view of how identity has transformed over the past few years?
It's a deceptively simple problem, just wanting to know who in your organization has access to what, and should they have access to that, and should they have those permissions is very deceptively simple to say. But to actually achieve the visibility over that is a tremendous technology challenge. It's something where you've got to gather up all of these identities, all these potential access paths. And even for a small to medium-sized organization, these can be like tens and millions of possibilities that need analyzing. And so in a prior life, I'd built, as you said, some similar technology to do this. And we could have really done with Veza at the time we were building this like a decade ago, and we'd not seen anything in the market. And when I first met Tarun and the team at Veza and realized what they were building, and more importantly, what they were building not just to solve this problem, but to solve it at massive scale, is a big differentiator. And I think, again, a lot of organizations have come and gone that have trying to solve this problem, but have missed the fact that to do this, you have to do it at scale, and you have to do this in a way that makes that complexity more accessible to organizations to be able to manage to drive towards to answer that question, who's got access to what, and is that the right access they should have, nothing more, nothing less.
If you go back to the basics of what Veza is providing, the first is visibility. Correct. So an X-ray, show me who has access to what. This is the access graph that you talk about. But it sounds like your customers have also drawn you into, well, what do I do about it?
Look, our Act 1 or our first maybe foray into the space was just the visibility and the observability layer, which as you call the X-ray machine. Very powerful, fast value, people want to embrace it. The immediate next was like, this visibility is great, but can you show me the good, bad, ugly? I'm not going to sit and write rules. Can you show me the intelligence? Which was also very natural. And to your point, Karim, this one part of Veza that gets me really fired up is the customers pulling the product from us. They're like, look, this is good. Now, can you also give me some tooling for actionability and remediation? And so that's what led to our launching of Veza Actions product. Veza risk dashboards and risk recommendations. We did a lot of good work really to take and operationalize this visibility into the multiple business units, an app owner, an HR owner, a finance owner. So, that pull from customers go launch and actionability was actually right time and at the right place.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, I've seen that as well. It's like customers driving this to be a platform built on the graph of all those identity combinations and access combinations. It becomes like logical for organization to ask for that next pillar on the platform as they mature their own identity journeys. It's been kind of interesting to watch.
That's very, very well said, Phil. Is from visibility to intelligence to actionability, now monitoring. All of this sort of keeps adding and helps you become to an organization as a platform rather than a one-off tool.
So Phil, you mentioned NHIs, non-human identities. Could you give us a sense of fact versus fiction? How are these being managed today out in the wild? What have you seen?
So I think as more and more cloud adoption has happened, more and more systems have been brought into the scope of the identity problem. Most security teams have been finding more and more of these kind of non-human identities. It's the good old-fashioned service accounts and other machine accounts that connect applications to databases, applications to clouds. And now, of course, every AI agent has its own identity, which is another non-human identity. And so there's this explosion of these non-human identities. And connecting it back to the business purpose for why that access exists and what it drives in terms of what the human identities do, connecting that together turns out to be really important. And again, it's like you were saying earlier, it's the more and more of the attacks are not just coming in exploiting systems, they're coming in exploiting people's and systems' inherent access. And so understanding all of the identities and what they're allowed to do is become really, really important. And again, that makes the graph even bigger of how you connect all these together. And so what you want to do is look at every one of these non-human identities and saying, if that was compromised, what could that lead to and what could that lead to? It's like, again, a big graph explosion, and then making sure that those privileges are confined. And again, more and more of the breaches you see are not a breach of a human or a breach of a broader vulnerability. They're a breach of some leaked key that gives somebody access to some system or cloud system that lets them get in. And none of it is an advanced attack, but it's a signal that all of these non-human identities need better management and better management at scale with an integrated platform. Especially across all of AI and especially agentic AI, the whole industry is starting to understand what the identity and access problem looks like for that. And it's great. There's companies like Veza working in the middle of this. There's obviously companies like Google with the A2A standard. There's companies like Google partnering with Anthropic and others on the model context protocol kind of standards. Now, again, what's interesting is every organization is figuring out what their model of doing this is right, which again, it points back to needing a platform, because they just want to your point, they want to collect up like what agents have I got and what are they doing and what privileges do they have. And then you can use the platform to analyze it in different ways. Whereas sometimes if you buy a very, very specific tool, you get the vendor's view of the problem, which might be different to the enterprise problem you're solving. And so ultimately the flexibility of having the Veza access graph, modeling all of this that lets you put that module on top of it to answer the AI problem, just like you were answering the NHI problem or the traditional access problem, gives customers a lot of flexibility.
Absolutely.
To do this.
Absolutely.
So over the next 24 months, where do you see this going?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting. So, I mean, I think the obvious answer is more AI, more agentic AI, more non-human identities, more complexity, more development of technology in businesses as everybody continues to digitize even more. And I think we're going to see that, which is, again, going to drive the need for platforms and solutions that can scale. I think the other thing that's starting to happen that's going a little bit under the radar is the alignment between different types of risks in an organization. So security teams coming together with privacy teams, with compliance teams, with trust and safety teams, with ethical AI teams, that all descend on the same problem of wanting to know what is actually happening and are the permissions done in the right way. And I think, again, you start to see teams like privacy and compliance that maybe weren't using the technology like the security teams were, partnering with the security teams to try and get value out of that. And so you start to see these convergence between different risk domains, which again, for the right platform that's approached this as a data problem and a platform problem, it yields a lot of possibilities.
Well, thank you, Tarun. Thank you, Phil, for joining us.
Appreciate
we
you having
look
us.
forward to the next leg of this journey.
Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.